History is built on the bones of empires, but few foundations are as bloody as the one that held up the Ottoman throne. Imagine a world where your rise to absolute power required an unthinkable sacrifice: the systematic execution of your own blood relatives. For centuries, deep within the walls of Constantinople's Topkapi palace, a terrifying legal decree dictated the survival of the dynasty. It wasn't an act of mad tyrants or a hidden coup, it was the actual written law of the land. A decree that made it completely legal and even mandatory for a newly crowned sultan to murder his brothers. Today, we open the forbidden files of the Ottoman Empire to uncover the brutal reality of the law of fratricide. How did a family turn cold-blooded execution into a political necessity? And what was the terrifying price paid for ultimate control? Welcome to Shadow Chapters. To understand how this nightmare began, we have to look at the man who shattered the Byzantine Empire, Sultan Mehmed II, famously known as Mehmed the Conqueror. In 1453, Mehmed accomplished the impossible by conquering Constantinople. But while his external enemies were defeated, his internal ones kept him awake at night. In the early days of the Ottoman Empire, there was no clear law of succession. Any son of the Sultan had an equal claim to the throne. This meant that whenever a sultan died, his sons would tear the empire apart in brutal, bloody civil wars, weaponizing entire armies just to claim the crown. To save the empire from tearing itself apart from within, Mehmed made a chilling calculation. He codified a new law in his imperial code, the Qanunname. It stated, and I quote, "Whichever of my sons inherits the throne, it is appropriate for him to kill his brothers for the sake of the order of the world." Order, peace, stability. These were the words used to justify the ultimate sin. For generations, the law was carried out with chilling efficiency. But the true horror of the decree peaked in the year 1595, when Sultan Mehmed III ascended the throne. Mehmed III was plagued by intense paranoia. He looked at his family and saw 19 potential threats to his absolute rule. On the very night of his coronation, where the city outside celebrated their new ruler, a silent horror unfolded inside the palace walls. Royal executioners, sworn to secrecy, entered the private quarters of the palace. One by one, 19 of the new sultan's brothers, many of them mere infants and children, were systematically hunted down. But there was a strict spiritual catch. Royal blood was considered sacred in the Ottoman dynasty. Shedding it upon the ground was strictly forbidden and believed to bring a curse upon the empire. The solution? The executioners used a silent, thin silk cord. The 19 princes were wrapped in silk and slowly strangled to death in the shadows. The next morning, a silent, horrified public watched as 19 small wooden coffins were carried out of the palace gates in a single, endless line. The law had preserved the throne, but it had hollowed out the soul of the palace. The public backlash from that horrific night changed the empire forever. The law of fratricide was quietly abandoned, but the alternative wasn't much kinder. Instead of execution, future princes were locked away in the coffins, or the cage. These were luxurious, windowless rooms deep inside the harem, where princes spent their entire lives isolated from the outside world, waiting to see if they would randomly be called to rule, or left to lose their minds in captivity. From silk cords to golden cages, the Ottoman rulers proved that the path to ultimate power requires an absolute surrender of humanity. History is full of dark secrets kept hidden in the corners of grand palaces. If you want to uncover the unredacted truth behind the world's most powerful empires and secret elites, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Shadow Chapters. Leave a comment below. Was this brutal law justified to keep the empire safe? Until next time, keep watching the shadows.